still in this Aries, fiery, ash cheeky time. Heather, how we doing? How we doing, folks? Talk to me, Heather. How we doing?
I'm all right. I'm still antsy. And I think Mars in Cancer has me a little cranky. But you know, as time goes on, as I get older, I'm better at dealing with these moods, better at seeing the bigger picture, better at figuring out what it's all about and maintaining my goals and looking forward. What about you?
Yes, bitch. Heather, I love that. I really do. Folks, ladies, gentlemen, people of the jury, listeners, give it up. Give it all for one, all for nothing. What? Heather Cunningham. I'm sorry, Heather. It's the Aries. That was well, I will literally cut that entire intro.
Oh my God.
Listeners, give it up for Heather Cunningham, the literal guiding light that we all need, but especially me. I'm very selfish. I'm very selfish with my time with Heather. And I know we talked for so long before we started recording this episode, but Heather just texted me. We had a moment over the weekend where Heather just texted me out of the blue in a way that I really needed, and also in a way that I didn't know even at the time that I needed. And it was just so powerful, and it was so spot on, and it was just like everything. And that's how you are with me in my everyday life, Heather, but that's also how you are for the listeners, for anyone you're talking to astrology with, like the lives you've touched. Anyways,
stop it. The lives you've touched with your amazing, brilliant, sparkly personality and your
it's only because you bring it out of me.
stop.
I turn it on for you, Heather.
Oh my God,
no, but I just like this week, especially, listeners, folks, if you're feeling it, so are we. You're in good hands. But this week especially, I was just so looking forward to recording this episode, shooting the shit with you, talking the shit out with you, because yes, it's been as we know, Pisces season was personally a little heavy time for me. A lot of reflection, a lot of big goal shifts. But also kind of since then, I've been feeling still a little not pummeled, but just sort of still kind of like, okay, I'm ready to be off, like kind of let off the map. Like I want to kind of like fully tap out of the ring. Like I don't just want to break. Like I want to sit down in the audience and observe for a minute. Like I just really like kind of want to break. And like nothing is we're really okay, folks. Every day is a blessing.
Oh yeah.
But I really just like, there's been some massive shifts in the sky, some big transitions, and some huge pushes, or shoves, I should say, from the universe.
Yes.
I'm really feeling this Aries season. It's not like heavy in the way that Pisces was, but it still feels quite large. And it's been challenging, and it's been I've been feeling messages from the universe. I've been like the universe has been screaming at me, Heather, personally.
It's very Aries.
Listeners, Heather. Like the universe has had a fucking Aries tone. It's been very bossy. It's been very impatient with me. In a way that I need and I love.
Right.
But I also just like, okay, I think I'm just still recovering from Pisces. And Aries is just like kind of not letting me have that. It's kind of like, we're in fire. We're moving on. We're going forward. And I'm like, well, let me reflect on it some more. And Aries season is like, come on. We got to catch this train. We're moving. We're going next stop. And I'm like, I'm so grateful for the season. And I think this full moon energy, Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, it's also full moon in Libra. This has been this specific full moon. We talked about it being a solar eclipse as well. But like this specific full moon right now during this huge Aries season, right after this big Aries new moon, sandwich between this big Aries new moon, it's no coincidence to me that it's a Libra full moon. Just saying, like especially the balance in the way this Aries season is gonna sort of
pack an extra punch, but there's that Libra we're going to come back to balance in the middle. It's kind of really unique and cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like we just kind of went through sort of a rocky like wind up. And this moment I think is exactly, I think I've been not maybe ready to fully. This is all, again, this is kind of my personal where I've been putting a lot of the analogies for myself. Please let me know if you disagree or if any of this sounds like yes. But yeah, it just does feel like I did a lot of talking, right? I did a lot of talking in Pisces season. And then I also did just get sick in a way that I was like, the universe said rest. But then I also think I was still in rest mode when the universe said move.
Right.
And like, so this, I am taking this personally, this full moon in Libra time as like a moment of like, okay, sweets, you were gentle with yourself. You did give yourself some rest and time, but that anxious energy you're feeling and that scattered brainness and just like that general brain fog, honey, you need movement. Like I do think I've been feeling extra heavy because I'm not in flow. I am not in the motion of where we are right now. And maybe it sounds like you can relate, Heather. Maybe some of our listeners can relate, but I'm not sure if that's quite what you were touching on. But as we were talking and as you specifically were talking about the anxieties you've been feeling, that's where mine feel like they've been coming from. It was like a lot of buildup. And then I got stuck, especially because I got sick and I just really was like, I want to pout for a minute and I want to be a victim right now. And I think while the universe absolutely let me have that and sort of told me to have that, I think maybe I'm staying in that stage too long. And if we know if we know anything about the universe, Heather, she gets very fed up when things are stale.
Yes.
The universe is not a stale bitch.
No,
she is spontaneous as fuck. She's combustion all the way through.
About progress, growth.
She will not let you not grow. Yeah. Yes, there's just too much life to live. And she loves to kick you in the nads and remind you of that. Heather, please.
Yeah. Well, and Mars just entered Cancer, and they say Mars isn't the happiest in Cancer. Like
it's not the happiest.
It's not. So we're in Aries season, and Aries ruling planet is Mars. It's the planet of action. Where do we want to put our drive? Where do we want to start things? But in Cancer, it's like, only if I'm in the mood.
Jesus.
You know, Cancer likes to like dip its toes in the water. Yeah, Cancer likes to dip its toes in the water. Take its time. Does it feel right? I'm not sure.
Is that Cancer? The perfectionist thing, or more just like
some of that.
It's the energy doesn't match. If it's not if it's not cozy.
If it's not cozy and comfortable, I think that's more so what it is. If it's not, if it doesn't feel safe, then it's a little bit more difficult. And Venus is in Taurus. Venus just wants to chill and enjoy good food and music while it's in Taurus. And so it's like interesting that we have this like, we're in Aries season. There's this Aries energy that's like, come on, it's the start. What are you going to start? Let's be fire. But then these other planets, one of which includes Aries ruling planet of action, is a little bit more like, oh, but we want to relax and feel into it, you know? So I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people are feeling this way right now. But how timely that we have a second Aries new moon along with this big solar eclipse that's for sure going to give us a push at the end of Aries season. So maybe that's how it's supposed to go. Maybe we aren't supposed to force it right now. And actually, I was listening to Molly McCord, who has become like my favorite astrologer to listen to the past 6 months. I've really gotten into her. And she says that this week, especially, it's not so much about forcing things. It's more about still thinking about like what you want to do, being very intentional about that, imagining the life you want for yourself and allowing the energies to carry you there, because we have major transits at the end of this week. And then, you know, next week we have the Aries new moon and the solar eclipse that are almost like Pluto's all up in there. And Pluto is like fated encounters. So it's almost like if your energy is in the right place, you could stumble upon something very, some good luck. Yeah, some good luck, something very fiery and spontaneous, but it's not like we have to force it right now. It's like make sure your energy's there, make sure you're
It's clear.
optimistic.
Yeah, make sure you're in a good headspace, make sure your energy is clear, you're in a positive, and it sounds like in a place of receiving.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it is so funny that you touched on that, Heather, too. My favorite phrase. So funny. It's just hilarious that you would say that subject that we're talking about, Heather. But yeah, like yesterday was such a bad luck day for both me and Sam. Like we had just it not like horrendous luck by any means, but just like stupid, like to a point where we were both like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck is going on? And then I was like, oh, it is the eve of a new full moon. Or like
right.
the eve of a full moon energy. And I was like, if anything, instead of, it's so funny how in the past I would have absolutely not been paying attention to the full moon energy. I would have not been paying attention to a lot of shit going on in the sky. I would not be nearly as in tuned as I currently am, for example. And I absolutely would have let that become like a really negative spiral and like a mean thing in a way of like, this is just life. This is just how things go for me. This is my worth. Like this is a reflection of like where I am in the great scheme of, like it would have been such a reflection of me. And it was such a nice moment to have this like awareness of like, oh my God, it's the fucking full moon energy. This shit's weird right now, in a way that I really got to let this thing that would have once been so heavy and a mean thing I would have done to myself, even though at the time I didn't realize it was being mean to myself. Like it was just so nice to have this reflection of not something to blame it on, but just sort of this like a little more of like it felt like I was let in a little more on what was going on, even though I still don't have a clear answer just yet. There was still a trusting process of like, okay, even if it wasn't so much of like this bad luck thing means this thing, like again, an example of some of the bad luck we experienced, our little kitchen cart that we have, the handle like snapped in half on it. It's been a piece of shit from the beginning. It came with the apartment. It's just like a cheap piece of furniture, and like the handle snapped, and then like right after that the toilet seat cracked in this really weird way. Like it must have just had like a hairline fracture in the porcelain, and like it wasn't anything we did, so like we're not gonna get in trouble. Our building's great about shit like that, like all very minimal, but it was just like there were just little things like that. And Sam waking up being sick, like it was all this like added layer to a point where you both were like, what's going on?
Oh my
but
God.
In a way that it was like I was just kind of like, okay, universe, you have my attention. Like I'm paying attention, like in a way that I was like, okay, all right, like in a very trusting process of like, what are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to show me? What's going on? And then like it really did make me look at sort of what was going on in the sky, like these external factors and this energy that really does play an effect. Literally the full moon, like we've talked about this before, the way women have pregnant women give birth more. They like staff more nurses on full moon nights because the literal actual gravitational pull of the moon will make a woman give birth. Like, so you can't say that the energy isn't real, and there's not maybe more of like a heaviness or even like truly a physical feeling to the fact that there is a full moon out there. It was just a really special thing to sort of be aware of now. It was a lot better for my mental health, I gotta say.
Totally.
Sorry, and also, go ahead, Heather, please. God, that was such a story time.
No, that's valuable information. Also, like the fact I've been comforted a lot thinking just that like not every day is going to be amazing. Like we can't have every day being euphoric amazing, even though idealistically with my planets in Pisces I really try to aim for that. But totally. And just because you have a bad day or an unlucky day doesn't mean that you're not on the right path or that it's just like pay attention. Like
absolutely. I love what you just said about that too, because I think it was a TikTok I was watching that like kind of talks about this, that the key to happiness, and especially with our generation, again, I love our generation. I'm in love with our generation. I think there's so much that we're changing and doing and talking about in a way that I'm just so fucking proud of us. I'm really happy to be born during this time. And I don't think I I think I used to take that for granted a lot. There's a lot of appreciation that's come with that now that we're like, our generation is at the age it is now.
Yeah.
Especially with this fucking Saturn return business.
Yes.
But like, the idea that, we are so used to, especially with cell phones, social media, not to be a traitor to my generation, sound like a boomer, but we are literally, the brain is so used to dopamine at our fingertips, like just doses of dopamine constantly. And I think it was a TikTok that I was watching that was like, one of the keys to accessing more dopamine and having more of it is not searching for it all the time.
Right.
Sitting for a second and being okay with like not receiving just instant gratification of entertainment all the time. Like, and that also, like, the more yoga I do and the more I take a minute to like journal in the mornings and the more I take a minute to really try to have a morning routine and a morning practice where I do get alone time and try to stay off my phone until a certain point in the morning, blah, 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 blah. And like yoga in general, breathe. And then like what that does to my breathing for the day, because like, even though I don't consider myself like a traditional meditation person in the sense of like sitting there and breathing. I blame the ADHD. I'm definitely someone who's got to like move it out.
No,
walk,
we all have
dance. Like, please. But like breathing in general and just breathe. Like anyways, it's just interesting. It just really is like this idea of like, it almost feels very powerful now. And there's almost new ways of I'm getting dopamine just because of the challenge of sitting there and taking a breath.
Yeah.
I'm tapping into superhuman capabilities over here. Like the fact that, and and just quitting some, like, specifically this week, there's some like unhealthy habits in general that I'm like really working hard to like quit or just like cut out in a way with like real intention. So it's interesting that you said that specifically about the end of this week as well. And what that's going to bring about of just sort of like buckling down and getting the shit together and like what's best for me. And not every day has to be this exciting like field trip away from school. Like there is an importance of consistency. And I think that's probably a huge thing we're supposed to feel in this full moon as well. Like while there is this like very fun aspect to fire and it's very spontaneous, like let's fucking go time. A big part of let's fucking going is the consistency of the long term, and not so much the short-term satisfaction, but especially keeping up with things because of the long-term goals you're after. Which is something, that my Pisces ass can be a little more. It's something I'm really trying to embrace more and really work hard to trick my brain into appreciating, because it is so easy for me to check into, oh, I could die tomorrow, let's fucking go have some fun.
Right?
Like it really is so. And while I do think that's a beautiful thing to have, I think this Libra full moon is here to remind me that like there's a reason though that Pisces aren't always the ones who are the big diva stars. And I'm like, you got to have consistency and a little earth, bitch. No,
right.
Kidding.
No.
Sorry,
and
Heather,
I struggle with that too. Like, even though I'm a Taurus moon, I've really realized recently that earth and fire are what I struggle with. Air and water come easily to me. But
Same.
But no, the breaking habits, I love what you said about the Libra full moon. And the breaking habits thing is really interesting too, because with Saturn entering Pisces, which just happened a few weeks ago, and it's going to stay in Pisces for 3 years, that's supposed to be like a theme for the next 3 years, is breaking habits. Yeah, we've talked about this, that don't
returning to self, that don't serve you.
Yeah, that don't serve you. And I've been
returning
thinking about
to like your authenticity.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot, and thinking a lot about how like I struggle with earth and fire more than I do with air and water.
Yeah,
and
that's really
how,
interesting
like,
to hear you say that, Heather.
Yeah,
explain that if you want a little bit. Like, what do you mean? You
yes.
just think that like, or when you say like earth and air, like they come easier to you, or like you think you more you hold more of those qualities?
Air and water. Yeah. And when you do like the breakdown on astro theme of the elements that I have the most of, when you take into account every planet and chart point that I have, I'm mostly air and water. So I feel like I naturally tap into that before I tap into earth and fire. Fire, I definitely have the least of, struggle the most with, but Earth lately I feel like has been difficult. It's probably because I'm coming on the Saturn return. I feel like every Saturn cycle is like, gotta harness that Earth. But Yeah. Well, so a habit that I've realized that is really bad for me that I think is a source of probably the Aquarius and the Pisces is that I'm like obsessed with astrology. I'm obsessed with like analyzing life themes in myself and in others, and just like taking a detached approach to like looking at my life. Like I wake up in the morning and I think like, where's my life going? How do I feel about this aspect of my life? What am I going to do today to like help level up this area and yada, yada, yada. But I enjoy thinking about it, but that's also harmful because I've realized that I get into a negative headspace a lot of the time of like, if I'm just like always focused on the things that are lacking, I'm like forgetting about the amazing things that I have. And I'm also not doing anything, if I'm just thinking, like, I'm not, but it's an asset too, to like have the Aquarian brain and the Pisces ability to like think about shit in a more all-encompassing spiritual way. Yeah, but
it can sometimes be a blessing and a curse. Like I think it's a beautiful thing, and I wish more people could tap into like their third eye, or it does sometimes feel like it's a gift, or just not.
Yeah, that it's easily accessible.
Right. It's not, and it took me a long time to realize like, oh, a lot of brains just simply do not work like mine.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, oh, and that's why they are making so much more money or doing things like math in a way that I'm like,
less depression, and
I can't. Yeah. Like I totally like mad respect, but like also I do just, while I love that aspect and that my mind always sort of naturally did tap into a lot of that, just from like childhood. And I think it was just always sort of, yes, my Pisces, like you said, yours as well. It can sometimes be a curse because I think sometimes it can get too deep, or it can get too big sometimes, or too overthought in a way that, because when you really look too hard at this life, sometimes it can get very bleak and very negative. It can be very easy to like ignore the good things about it, or even just sometimes not even on that so much of an extreme of like not trying to say the world is evil all the time. There's definitely some ugly corners and some dark pockets, but like all in all, I do think I don't want to get into it, but like it just more, there is sometimes this way I think it can almost be too overthought. And a little harder. It makes it harder to just like abide by society. It makes it harder to be in this like
to be in the earth realm. Totally. And
go ahead. Sorry.
And I'm sure you can relate to this as like a creative person who likes to like make shit that comes from a personal place. Even as people who have an astrology podcast, like you have to spend time thinking about this stuff. And like I want to make shit that deals with this stuff, so it is valuable to think about it. But it's like, oh god, how much. And then I have a creative idea that excites me, and then I spend weeks thinking about it, and then I'm not excited about it anymore because I'm thinking about all the ways it's not going to work. And it's like, Jesus.
And I think that's where I could tap into my fireness more. Like thank God my Mars is an Aries
in the 11th, which is a powerful placement.
Oh, is it? I'm like,
yes, because you're meant to like use your leadership capacities in a community realm. Like you are meant to like.
I think I've been doing a little bit of that recently. Go on.
The symbol of drive and initiating things and leading is in the house of community and also like larger dreams. It's Aquarius's house, so like you are meant to use that fiery planet within the larger collective, and it's great for art. It's great for creating community, bringing community together, leading a community, all things like that. All things I think you're very good at.
Oh my God, Heather. Thank you for saying that. You just sparked some inspiration in me.
Yay.
No, yes, but like I know that I've like I think people are sometimes, I was surprised myself. I think I for sure thought I was like, yeah, there's fire in here. Look at me. But I also do like and it took a while to also realize like how much Pisces can be a very sunny, fiery sign in a way. Just like Pisces can also be a darker, more mysterious sign too. Like
totally.
Pisces is this weird thing. It's not a flex. But I definitely believe I have some fire tones, just like everyone has. There's a little bit of all the elements in your chart, just sort of depending. And it's so funny how I don't have any fire in my main three, but the places I do have fire, it almost does feel like it counts. And I feel this like itch to want to tap into those sides of me in a way that I just like haven't. I don't think I've felt in a while, or, or I just like, again, maybe since I was more like in high school, or just like this Saturn return has really made me like realize like there's some shit to uncover in these layers. We all have so much more layers to our own chart, to our own personalities, to our own trajectories than we even know. Very exciting.
No, it is. Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, I feel like I've said this before, but I was just going to say I've been feeling that too, that Saturn return-ness of like, I was such a more fiery bitch when I was 7 years old, before society and all the fucking fuckers. Am I allowed to say that?
The pain.
Like,
yes.
before all, not even that. It just like, society and people in life, it tries to mold you. And I was so much more fiery and free as a child. And I'm trying very hard, very actively to come back into that. But then sometimes when I do that, I'm like, oh God, I was too much. I'm an adult now. That's not like, anxiety. But
no, Heather,
it's a balancing act.
It's a balancing act. Yes. And I totally hear you. And I just do think, if anything, we've learned, hopefully more people understand this, and who gives a fuck if they don't. But if there's anything I've learned in this life, it's so much better to be a little too much than a little too less.
Yes.
Like, imagine being less.
Right. Imagine
not to quote that exact, like, I know there's a TikTok of this quote essentially, but it really did stick with me. Like, I kind of love that. Like, okay, so what's my other option? Being boring? I'd rather die.
Same.
There's nothing I hate more than being fucking bored.
Preach.
Like, okay, congratulations on playing it safe.
No. Fuck
Grow
that.
up. Live a little.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's so short out here, bitch. Like, I just can't with you people sometimes. All my love to the listeners and to their lovers and their enemies. Anyways, but yeah, it's been this fiery time, tapping into our fiery selves. We can't say it enough. Oh, that's what I loved what you just touched on. And I think this is something I've mentioned maybe on the podcast before, or at least maybe to you. Maybe I haven't.
Yeah.
But like, yes, when I went back and watched like home videos, like some home footage of myself as a kid, there was like a jealousy. I realized I had jealousy watching as like a college kid, who I thought was more sure of herself and more in control and the freest she had ever been in her life. Here I was jealous of this little girl.
I totally get it.
Was me. Like, and I realized, like, you're still her. Like, if you're jealous of her, you could still captivate that. Like, you're she's still with you, that little bitch. Like, that life fun having bitch. Like, I just, like, it was so crazy to be envious of myself in that way, in a way that was also a very beautiful thing to realize, like, oh, she's still you, you're still her. Like, you get to still honor her. She's still along for the ride. No, it was really, but it's such an interesting feeling of like, you're so right. When society gets to you, the way the world just works, it's not easy out here for the water signs or the air all the time. But I think this Libra full moon, again, like we said, it's all about the balance. And there is, like, I'm trying to be, I think I spoke about this last episode too. I'm personally trying to be more intentional, and this feels like a very energy packed, intentional time. Like, it just does feel like there's a lot of scheming going on by the universe in our favor.
No, and yes, for sure. Yeah, I feel like Aries is very intentional. Aries is like all about, you don't have to overthink shit. Aries is like, here I am. This is me.
It's right, because I felt intuition. It and I did it, and that's what it is.
Yeah, it's like literally Aries to me is not
the time to overthink.
Well, yes, I was gonna say, I was gonna make an analogy that it's like the drunk bitch who just like does, you know, whatever sparks her in that moment, or like, and
in a way, it's like, are we here to get drunk, or are we here to get drunk?
Right.
What are we out here to do? Like, why are you looking at me weird at the bar? You had just as much time here. You could have gotten just as many drinks and had just as much fun.
Yes. But no, it is an intentional time. And when we talk about transits later, I'll get more into that, because it really does. And you know, depending on how much you understand transits in the natal chart, this might resonate with you or it might not. But when we started this podcast, and maybe I've said this before, but when we started this podcast, like the sun and a lot of the personal planets were transiting over my first house, which is Aries house. And that's like an excellent time to start things for this reason. And that doesn't mean that you have to have all the ducks in a row. That doesn't mean that you have to have, you know, everything together in an earth way. That's why earth comes after fire. But like, pay attention to what your intuition's telling you, what's lighting you up in that fiery way, what just feels intuitive, like, I gotta do this.
Heather, you are sparking me up. You are just sparking me up. I'm excited to get I know we have to move into the birth charts, but before we move into the transitions, we'll get there. But I am so excited to go over the transitions more. And then you just reminded me too of, did I already say the stove analogy?
No, you didn't. Only before. Yeah, say it.
Like, did I say it? Okay.
No.
You know what I mean by yes, like when we talked about sort of this anxious time we're feeling, and we're sort of in this, like, there was a lot of like get up and go. And then it felt like also sort of a lot of still some things to be positioned. Yeah, still some ducks to get in a row before the going could really, it was almost like there was a big get up and go to like the start still.
Yes.
But what we thought was almost a very much like the start wasn't quite the launch it felt like it was. So that energy has felt a little stale, a little weird, like a little wonky for a second. And I feel like we're in this, like, this full moon is about to let some like unclogged things sort of push through.
Totally.
But during this anxious weird time, when we were talking about it, I was like, yes, it's like it's fire season has started. But if this, it's almost like the way when you light a gas stove and you turn the knob on to light it at first, and the flame's not catching just yet. So it's just sitting there like click, 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 clicking. Like that anxious feeling is very similar to that click, click, clicking of the gas stove.
I love that analogy. It's so perfect.
I think, and if we go into like this full moon with sort of that analogy, we're about to get the flame. Like, I think after this full moon energy, bada bing, bada boom, we've got a consistent flame,
clicking
folks.
Again. Yes.
And then you talked about how Taurus season is the even more of a fire season, is sort of this big spark to what feels like a big launch, right?
Yeah, an idea.
But you and the start and like getting going.
The impulse.
But then we talked about Taurus season being the grounding in that.
Right.
And really like consistently the follow through, then making it a real thing. I feel like comes next with that earth. What a beautiful thing, again, to have fire into earth. It would be such a bummer, for example, to have fire and then into water. Because it's like, oh great.
No,
there went all our ignition.
I was having fun yesterday.
Dump all the fuel. Why don't you? Yeah, no, exactly.
That's so funny.
So like that, what a beautiful thing that we have this like launch of fire, and then it gets to be followed up through this like earth consistency, and then you get a little break in there with air, and you get to challenge yourself a little bit with air,
right?
And then you really put that shit to the test with water again.
Oh my
and
God.
Back
and then
fire.
The cycle continues. But beautiful. No, absolutely, I can't agree more. And I'm pretty sure that it was during Leo season when I texted you about the podcast, but our first episode was Virgo, so that's a good example of you know, fire's about figuring out what lights you up, what excites you right now.
And now we're about to head into that, like,
when we get into the earth season, we can
we can really get,
we can ground in.
We can be a lot ruder to ourselves if we're not,
Right,
exactly.
just but it's always easier during Earth season. And Earth season, it's like just so much, I don't know, there's less like tension.
Energy is set up to be a little more in your favor.
Totally.
To be consistent. Right now, it feels like quite a few wrenches.
Yeah.
Have been kind of tossed into the mix.
Yeah.
Well, this Pisces season was just one big ass wrench.
Yeah, and I mean, also this year is huge. Like,
kind
and we just had Pluto
wrench.
enter a new sign, which only happens every 10 to 20 years. It's like it's a lot of big shifts that we're still dealing with on a global scale, on a personal scale. So it's like we can be a little patient with ourselves while also, making sure that we're
not losing sight.
Yeah, at least thinking about what lights us up, what's next, how we want to grow. Yeah.
God, I love it. Oh, I love it. There was one more thing I was going to add, and we can get more into this too. And I know we truly are about to move on to the charts, but we've got this new moon. So we have this full moon in Libra, reminding us of this balance, kind of bringing us back down to the center a little bit, it feels like.
Yeah.
But it's this air time of still keeping us in the clouds, not forgetting to have fun with it, but also that reality of like exactly what you just sort of touched on, Heather, to be patient with yourself, the have grace with yourself, be nice to ourselves during this process. We're going to move back into another Aries new moon right before we launch into Taurus season. And this was something I know I brought up on the pod and something I think we'll touch more into in the end. I would love to, but it's so cool how we're about to shift this whole new astrological year. All the new moons thus far, or leading up to this now, like sort of reset with this new moon in Aries. All the new moons have been right after the sun has entered that sign. The new moon has happened in the sign like right after, sometimes the next day, or a day or two after the sun has entered that same sign. Now, the new moons after this, we have this like reset, and the Aries new moon coming at the very end of Aries season again. The sun moves into Taurus, and then it's not till closer to the end of Taurus season that we have a new, because like we just have the new moon in Aries, and then we'll have another full moon in a different sign. And then this is just an example. And then we're going to have that new moon in Taurus at the end of, so I think it's, I just wanted to bring that up
when the
sun's
really in Gemini and the new moon is going to be in Taurus. Yeah, I love that. I think that's so cool.
What an interesting shift. And it was just something I kind of caught on to today. As I told you, I was like making note of all the new and full moons. Just something, and like, I don't know if there's like a clear like explanation to that, but I do just think that energy is going to be quite a difference. I think that's really
it's more dynamic.
It's really interesting.
I love
to just keep in mind. And this first new Aries season is just sort of the first example. So we'll talk about that more towards the end. But for now, shall we get into these Aries signs, Heather?
Let's. I'm excited.
Let's dig into these charts, shall we? Oh, Heather, these Aries folks, they've been some sparky motherfuckers, if I dare say so myself.
Sparky as in sparkle in the sunlight.
Yep.
Because vampire.
Heather. That was too good.
It really wasn't. It was a reach. But
please. Not Team Edward, not Team Jacob, Team Kristen.
Team Kristen, Team Bella, honestly, Team Edward too, but mostly Team Kristen. No, she's done so many iconic roles, and I love her as an actor, but she's always going to be Bella first and foremost for me.
Yeah.
And I love that she's not like Robert Pattinson, and she's not like fuck that franchise. Like, she actually went into it really
she took it
enjoying
seriously,
the books and wanting to bring life to this thing. And
she was absolutely an Aries about it, for sure. In all the right ways and all the good ways, and I believe takes any role but her job seriously. I love Kristen Stewart. I think Kristen Stewart is, of course she's an Aries, of course they're an Aries, please come on, what are we talking about? Just incredible.
Love Kristen.
Oh, Heather. So Kristen is an Aries sun,
Aries sun, with Libra moon and Gemini
Ah,
rising. Yes, the Aries Libra polarity,
damn.
right as we are in the midst of a Libra full moon. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Very air and fire.
Damn, Kristen is about to have like a time.
I
Like,
know, true. Yeah.
especially with the
Probably
I
going
know
through something literally right at this minute.
well, you touched on you said I'm sorry, you said their moon is Libra.
Mm-hmm.
So literally right now we're in the Libra full
The
moon.
Libra full moon.
That's gotta be there's gotta be some pull
It's got to
there.
be. Mm-hmm.
Aries sun, obviously, but then you said they're Gemini rising.
Yes.
And then you talked about how it's Gemini and Aquarius that are going to be having that trine, right?
Yes, yes. I'll get into it
Pluto.
more later. But yeah,
Yeah,
Venus
sorry,
is
no
moving in.
spoilers,
No,
no
no, no, no,
spoilers.
no. Yeah, no spoilers. No, 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 no. We can spoil. Venus is about to move into Gemini, trine Pluto in Aquarius at 0 degrees. So yeah, Kristen's chart's gonna be all lit up. Yeah.
Season for it. Anyway, go on. Proceed, Heather.
Yeah. So I I'm a big fan of Kristen Stewart. I think that this chart, I think it makes sense. I think the Aries makes sense. I think the air sign presence makes sense. So what's cool is that there's almost this grand trine with the air signs also because Mars
Like in
is
Kristen's chart?
yeah, because
Oh.
Mars is also in Aquarius right on the midheaven, which is cool. So there's a strong personal planet in Aquarius as well. So it's like all the air signs have a presence. And then we have this Aries to anchor that Libra moon. Yeah, and then it's a 5th house moon, an 11th house sun. So it makes sense to me. And then a lovely Venus in Pisces in the 10th house. So it makes sense, one, from this chart, that career kind of I don't totally know what the trajectory was with getting into the entertainment industry and acting and all of that. But I would think that it was kind of a natural, easy
Kristen.
process.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only thing I know is that Kristen Stewart is like, from the child acting world in the sense that got into it
very
from
young.
a young age, definitely at least under 18, where like
yeah,
you definitely had to be like taught on set, like you're taking class on set, sort of age, young enough that you're getting homeschooled on set, sort of deal. But yeah, I also don't really know the whole like history of how they got into it and why, but yes, I do just know that like regardless of if it was like their choice to be, like a child star sort of deal, it's clearly something they've kept up with and clearly something they take seriously and they're passionate about. It would
yes. And I was talking to someone from our college theater program like a year ago and the topic of Kristen Stewart came up, and this person was like, oh, you guys don't even understand, like K-Stu takes acting like the craft very seriously. Like you can tell Kristen like loves acting. And one of my favorite actors of all time is Julianne Moore, and I love the movie Still Alice. And apparently like from that that project they became really close, and there's all these like photos that I've seen since them of them like being locked arm in arm at events and like talking and chatting and hanging out. And I know that Julianne Moore is, I want to say, a Sagittarius with Gemini, or Gemini with Sagittarius, so I think you're sense that they like click in that way. But I also see Julianne Moore as someone who takes acting very seriously, but not in an annoying, pretentious way. Just in like, we're trying to bring the best performance forward.
Right. I want to make this actually real.
Yeah.
And still have fun, but still take it seriously. Yeah.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah. And I also know that when they were doing Twilight, Kristen Stewart was one of the first people cast as like in the first movie. And Catherine Hardwicke, who directed the first movie, was like, well, we're gonna audition the different Edwards like with you. And I know that they tried out a lot of different Edwards, and Kristen was the one who was like, I think Robert.
Wow, really? I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, which
I knew
is
that she was the first one to be cast.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that she had such a huge hand in making sure Robert Pattinson was.
Yeah, and then they started a relationship, and then Kristen cheated on him.
Right? It was like a public cheating. She cheated with who? A director? Not the director of Twilight.
Not the director of Twilight, but I think a different director for another project. Yeah. And you can tell watching Breaking Dawn Part 1 and Part 2 that the chemistry is not the same as it was. Like, Aries can't fake that shit.
That's so funny.
No. Not that the acting was, bad or anything.
No. But just like that the chemistry was off.
Right? Yeah. I could tell.
Well, and the world was aware. So even if like they could act their asses off and be like, we all know, like, I think that's hard to come back from that no matter how great your acting is. But yeah, that's really funny. I'm sure also like, the scent. I forgot all about that. And then now, correct me if I'm wrong, Kristen is married to a woman.
Oh, I don't know. That
I want to say. Maybe not.
You might be. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Kristen is an Aries just finding themselves just like all of us. Come on now.
Yes.
But no, anything else, Heather? Or like besides like their insane air placements, that's so wild. Are there any other like standout things in the chart too that are really like, this explains that, like maybe the cheating? I don't know, just kidding.
Well, so what's interesting is that there are a lot of planets in the 8th house, Scorpio's house of intimacy, but secrets and mystery and all that shit. But it's mostly outer planets that are there. So Neptune and Uranus are conjunct in the 8th house. And then Saturn is there at the end of the 8th house, which is the planet of restriction, but also mastery. So yeah, it's interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe like the affair and, maybe some of the dramas that Kristen deals with romantically are almost like fated encounters. Like, someone just comes in who is a little dark and mysterious and maybe they can't help themselves, but but Saturn there shows a necessity to master that area of life. So I do wonder, I should have looked up before we recorded, but I do wonder what's up for Kristen romantically now. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. That's what as you were doing
did you
that,
Google?
I was briefly Googling. But I was listening and I was with you.
No,
but I was just about to say, yes, Kristen is currently seeing a woman, I believe. Hold on. Let me just read it one more time. I don't know if they're just dating or if they are engaged. Kristen Stewart and Dylan Meyer first started dating in 2019 and got engaged in 2021. Though she's been working in Hollywood for years, Dylan Meyer wasn't thrown into the spotlight until 2019 when she began dating Twilight actress Kristen Stewart. So I don't know who she is. She's gorgeous. They look so fucking good together.
I'm sure.
They're hot as hell. Or like, I could just show you a picture. But yeah.
Oh wow.
So I know that was like recent that like Kristen Stewart, it was like a thing that Kristen Stewart came out because also like her whole relationship with Robert Pattinson was always this
very
negative,
public,
like very public, like scandal thing. I'm sure everyone's fine now, but
interesting too that Robert like Robert is like triple air, I want to say, or at least double. Or sorry, not air. Sorry, I meant Earth. At least double Earth.
I don't know what I was saying. I was like, that's right. My fucking Gemini moon said everyone is. Yeah. Triple air. No, that's so funny. I don't know why I was like that. I thought for whatever reason, Robert Pattinson was an Aquarius, but surely no, because we would have done him.
Right. I know. I would have been like
I thought I should have known better because I'm like, no, he wouldn't have been skipped. Go on.
He's either a Taurus or a Capricorn. He's double Earth for sure. So that's interesting. Because
did we skip him or did we do him?
I know. Did I not think to do Robert Pattinson? Because
okay, well
No, I bet he's
Google
a Taurus, and that's why we haven't done it. Yeah, keep Googling.
I just don't believe there's a world where we would have an astrology podcast and not do Robert Pattinson during his sign.
Yeah. I bet he's a Taurus, and that's why we haven't done it yet.
You're like, God, please let him be a Taurus. Don't tell me we failed and have to cut all this out.
He gives me Taurus more than Capricorn. And I know that after that, he dated FK Twigs, who's a Capricorn. That was probably them being too similar, which is why it didn't work out. But like the K-Stu thing, I get it. It's like opposites attract. Like she's
like the third thing. It's like Robert Pattinson. And then the second thing that comes up is Robert Pattinson, girlfriend. And then the third thing is Robert Pattinson, Kristen Stewart.
Yep.
Sorry. Anyway, keep going, Heather. Sorry.
But yeah. No, but this is a really dynamic, really cool chart. Also, the fact that Mars is conjunct midheaven in the
he's a Taurus.
Yay!
Sorry.
Yes.
You were right. He's
okay,
it says this makes him a hardworking Taurus sun with an empathetic Cancer moon. He's May 13th, 1986. Anyway,
with a Cancer moon. Oh,
yeah, that fucking checks. There's one of my favorite things ever. Sorry, we don't need to do this right now. We'll obviously get to him during his time, but he accepts an award at something, and everyone's like screaming and going nuts. Of course, like the fans and the audience,
right?
And he's like, "All right, shut up." And it's so funny. And he's like, "No, I'm just kidding." Like it's so funny. It's really, really funny. Anyways, I love him.
Oh, I love him too.
But he does hate on Twilight.
I know.
but I think he maybe went through some trauma.
Yeah, totally. And I think that he, unlike Kristen, got like a weird start to like his career. He basically came on the map during Twilight. Yeah. She was more established. She had more freedom
to do something stupid like that.
With him, totally. With him, like it was way more risky, and I get it. But
he'd only done Harry Potter. And then it was like this was a huge, big other
adults project. Yeah.
That also got panned not far after. And yeah.
I know.
Anyway, go ahead.
I love it. I was gonna say, well, Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart, I mean, they just like give me this like coolness factor that is just like undeniable. And the last thing I was gonna say is just I feel like Gemini rising people just give off this effortless like cool quality. Like I don't know.
That's so funny. Do you think it's Geminis in general, or do you think it's like specifically the rising placement?
I think it's that. I mean, I'm surrounded by Gemini risings. It's one of my favorite rising signs. But like in general, I think Gemini is just so comfortable in the immediate environment. It's just so good at navigating social situations and like knowing all this information and being witty that they're just like so fucking cool. Not to say that one sign's cooler than the other or anything, but you get what I'm saying.
There's a cool, like, there's a like natural coolness, like
an ease.
No, but I get what you're saying. It's that way that I just think it's Gemini. It's one of Gemini's. It's just something that's a little easy for them. It's just adapting to a situation.
Totally.
Which just makes them a little more of like when you're able to just sort of like that in itself, like
be chill, just
when you're just able to be confident. Like, oh, I don't carry social anxiety because I don't have to because I can just adapt. It's like, okay, fuck off, that's awesome,
right? You know, like, I know,
what a nice thing to just fit in with any type of human. Like that has to just there's an ease factor, which makes it cool. It's just like, wow, you don't. If you're anxious, you're not showing it.
Yeah, which
that's cool.
Right? No, I agree. And I'm sorry. I'm like jumping in. But
no,
like,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But like, the last thing I want to say, like bouncing off of that is it's so funny that like the character of Bella Swan is so not that cool girl. Like it feels like that was like Kristen's like most awkward role to just like be authentic in a little bit. Like because like Kristen played like Joan Jett, like Kristen played like Princess Diana, and like Bella Swan is all like, I'm awkward. And it's like,
yeah, no, absolutely. What a stretch for that bitch. Yeah, no business in that role. Definitely was not showing her strengths.
But I love her.
So fun. I really, I love Kristen Stewart a lot. Anything else, Heather, that you wanted to flag on?
I think I got it.
Chart.
The fifth house moon is very creative. The 11th house sun is very, meant to shine in the community, the larger collective. Gemini rising. We went through it all. Love Kristen. Come on the pod.
Well, it's fun to Kristen. Get your ass on the pod. You know, it is just also fun to sort of watch her trajectory. Her watching Spencer, right? Spencer was so fucking fun and is that what it's called? Where she plays Diana?
Oh, I didn't see the movie. I don't know what it's. Is that what
I think
it's
called Spencer because
interesting.
I want to say Diana's original last name is Spencer.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Anyways, but she fucking crushes it.
I need to see it. I've heard an incredible job. Yeah.
It's a really really fun film. I only saw it the once in theaters, but it really stuck with me, and I really was so impressed with her performance. Just really impressed with her in general, and I was just kind of like, wow, this is fucking insane. Like you're just back on the map, like in a way that was really fun. And I think that like not that she ever really like fell off completely, but like I think she was kind of in the way that women are, in the way that nobody actually did know the exact details, or like I guess I don't know if anyone ever admitted to cheating or if we ever got the real story of their stuff. But in the same way that women get blamed for everything, even if that wasn't the rumor, you know, it still would have been like, well, she made him cheat. You know, I don't know, but like, it was just really cool to see. You should definitely watch it, listeners, if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I should.
But yeah, it's really good for her. I love
the range of the acting range is it's genuinely so good.
The talent, the dedication,
the talent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's also like it's extra impressive when you're a child actor to get into adulthood, to A, still be doing it, B, to still have like the successfulness of the longevity of a acting career, C, that you're like still liked well enough that you're not gonna complete asshole. Like child stars also for me kind of do get like not a pass but a little more of an understanding of like, well, yeah, they were a child star, no wonder they're lashing out and don't know how to be a human being. What do we expect? Like the psychological trauma. So the fact that Kristen's still like around and just got like, she was not, I don't know. I can't remember if Kristen won for that role. If she got the Oscar,
say she
was definitely nominated. I don't know. I can't remember.
Either way, I know it was a big deal. Yeah.
It was a huge deal. And it was just really cool because I do think that it is rare anymore for like child stars to still be in it and dedicated in an actual like passionate way. And it wasn't it was an Oscar movie too. Like it wasn't like just a huge like, I don't think it wasn't Twilight. It wasn't a huge, and like, you know, with her name, she could like absolutely do something without any of the art aspect. But it clearly, to me, it's so cool to see that that's still very important to her.
Yeah. No, it really is
in her career.
I agree.
But yeah, Kristen, we love you. Come on the pod,
please.
You dead icy cold bitch. There's a little Bella reference for you if you've. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Shall we move on to the next, Heather?
Yeah, you're gonna have to help me.
Don't tell Alex Nightingale.
I know. Oh no. Yeah, introduce them.
This next Aries, king of my heart, body and soul. He's so hot, Heather. Oh my god. Yeah, you're like, you think so? Pedro Pascal, the one and only, really having a moment. So, listeners, Heather, if you've heard of The Last of Us, it's a new show on HBO. It just had its first season. It like debuted this year. And it's from a very popular video game from 2007. That's like sort of an apocalypse sort of video game that was like critically acclaimed for having such a kick-ass narrative. So it was already, and then it was like one of the most watched, like I think it broke a record in a while of like for like one of the first HBO shows in a while to have such a huge rating as it did. Like it had a huge the pilot, I guess.
And here I am under my rock.
But it's okay, Heather, please.
Anyway, it's
someone has to stick to the reality television. Someone has to skip out on the pop culture. I'm just kidding. You're not on the pop, whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway. Also I know Pedro Pascal because I am a Star Wars fan, and yes, he's in the Star Wars show that came out on Disney Plus. But it's so funny because he is so hot, and that's like why he's really blowing up right now too. Besides, he's just like He's very talented. He's an incredible performer. He's so charismatic and cute and funny. He's such a fucking Aries in his interviews. That's why he's like extra blowing up right now too. He's such a cutie. He's so funny. And it really feels like you're getting him. Like you're authentically getting him. Like it does feel like even when I'm watching an interview with him, I'm like, I do feel like this is just like how he would be in his home. There's this like just this like chillness factor to him and this authenticity that is so fire in Aries.
Yeah, so Aries.
And he's very lead role energy, obviously, and very or literally just main character energy, actually. And then that's also like the roles he's playing.
Right.
But anyways, in Star Wars, his face is covered the whole time. He plays the Mandalorian. That's the show. It's called Mandalorian. And he plays a character that wears a helmet the whole time. So you don't even see his face. So it's kind of funny. But in The Last of Us, he's a hot daddy. And now he's like the internet's daddy and he's blowing up. But yeah, I love Pedro Pascal. I know Alex Nightingale loves Pedro Pascal. She's a fan. We love the shows that he's in, but also just like in general. Yeah, he's a really incredible performer. So charismatic. They like hook him in a recent interview I saw. They have him hooked up to a lie detector and they're like, do you think you're hot? And he's like, no. And immediately the guy's like, he's lying. And Pedro's like immediately cracking up, but it's not in this cocky, rude, like turn off narcissistic way.
Yeah.
It's so cute and funny. And then because you also know they're asking him the hardest, most funniest questions that like it's kind of almost like surprising and daring that they would ask those questions in a way. But anyway, yeah. So the next question they ask him is like, do you go on your Instagram fan accounts when you're sad? And he was like, I do. And like, just so I like get why he's blowing up. It's just no surprise to me. But yes, after looking further into Pedro's chart, Heather, so he's a Aries sun, Capricorn moon, Cancer rising. The Cancer rising thing is truly, I think, a lot of what we're getting in the interviews personally.
The Cancer rising. Yeah, yeah.
Or like that his sensitive, sweet, warm side really plays a front leading character in terms of his brand.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I get what you're describing. This chart is holy shit. It's so angular and it's so many squares.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult chart. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's a little like mine because you have like yeah, not to, but like
no, it's just funny that what do you mean by difficult, I guess?
So like when you have, so all the planets, the sun, the moon, and the rising are in all three cardinal signs. So, you know, the four cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, Libra. In this chart, the sun is in Aries right next to the midheaven. The moon is in Capricorn right next to the descendant. The Cancer rising is, you know, the ascendant, obviously. Saturn, the planet of challenges and restriction, is also right by the ascendant in opposition to the moon and in conversation with all of this. And then Pluto, it really is a lot like my chart. Pluto is with different signs, charming, but Heather. The same. No, I'm not saying that. Different energies, but like the way the planets are positioned is very similar, and that there's like the energies aren't combining naturally. It's like this archetype is challenged by this other part of me, which is challenged by this other part of me, and they say that helps you to be very ambitious, and it kind of forces you to buck up and like deal with you know, bring harmony into the various parts of yourself. You have to like take a conscious, active approach to that. But
interesting.
But they also say angular charts are kind of like you're breaking the cycle of past generations, and life is sort of forcing you to to take on challenges because you can, and to level up, and to like there's like a fated component to it. But the moon and Capricorn in the 7th opposite the ascendant and opposite Saturn and Cancer in the 4th first, sorry, is tough. That's tough. Cause like,
What?
oh
Yeah. What do you
God,
mean?
emotionally it's tough. I don't know what, yeah, like, I mean, the 7th house is romance. Cancer is a water sign. There's
I see.
toughness with emotions, but Moon and Capricorn bringing the emotions into your work, maybe making the audience someone that you have relationships with. That could be a way this manifests.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is
But I don't
interesting.
know much about Pedro's romantic life or how
don't
that
either. I
manifests
do
exactly,
believe,
but
yeah, I believe he's single. I don't really know much more than that as well. I should have looked more into it before this, but I more just was like, he's such a hot daddy. And I don't think he actually has kids. I more just mean like he plays a hot dad in this HBO show. He is just
right.
Yeah. But yeah, he is so charming. It did not surprise me at all that he was Aries. It's really fun and interesting to hear you talk about his chart just based off, again, watching him sort of have his moment recently. Like he's very trending. Like this show really blew up. And so like he's getting a lot of like press right now and a lot of like attention right now in a way that does feel well deserved. He's like, he just has such warmth and he's such a sweetie. But yeah. Anything else, Heather, in terms of that, like you that are kind of like, oh, that stick out to you, or like in terms of, I hope he has longevity. I hope this isn't just like a fluke. I hope this isn't just his 15 minutes of fame. I think Pedro's going to be around for a minute.
No, I think so too. I think with this chart, yeah, no, I think so. I really think so. Jupiter, it's Jupiter's conjunct the sun in the 9th house in Aries, and it's opposing Pluto, which is like a power placement. And I think that points to longevity a bit. But yeah, there might be like a wanderlusty sort of philosophical tilt to him. Who wants to constantly expand and explore. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a very dynamic, very widespread, very challenging, but in a positive way chart. But there's also a grand trine with the Mars in Cancer, or sorry, the Mars in Aquarius. And the Gemini rising and Uranus in the 4th. Yeah, there's some ease to the tension. Yeah, I think I've said everything.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
That one was for you, Alex Nightingale. Pedro, come on the pod. Alex, shut up about this already. No, just kidding. I love Pedro too. I was really excited to do him. He's such a charming Aries.
Yeah, I'm excited to
fire.
Look into him now.
Yeah, you'll love him, Heather.
Yeah. I love the Aries charm. It really is charming.
Same. Just undeniably the best. Heather, those were some fiery, fun charts.
They were.
This is just a fiery, fun time.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, it is. Yeah, I just like the new moons happening now, like the new moons in their season happening towards the end, like this being this now after this Aries new moon at the end of the season being sort of like a theme and a pattern for the rest of the seasons throughout the year. That's really interesting in terms of energy.
Yeah,
and
it is.
Specifically the energy we get from new moons, specifically that like these new moons were at the beginning, and now that same energy is more now being
at the end of
like
the season.
Right, it's happening at the end. Yeah, it's just really
I like that.
Wild. I can't believe I caught that. What a random little like, I mean, I'm sure eventually we obviously would have caught it, but it was so exciting to make that catch before the Aries new moon has happened.
Yeah, no, totally. I agree. And it's also interesting that we have been in this period of time with no retrogrades for, I want to say 80 something days. I know it was like 90 something days of no retrogrades that we were going to have this year, and we are reaching the end of that. Unfortunately, Mercury is going to retrograde around April 21st, I want to say. And yeah, so
421 retrograded.
Yes.
Go on.
Yeah, so that's cool too, that it's been like hyperspeed,
Right.
new moon in the sign right after the sign begins,
Right.
and now we're starting this retrograde. We're starting the new moons at the end of the season. It's cool. It's a little bit less like pressure at the start of each season.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're entering a cool down, and also an opportunity to have these renewals and these new starts.
Yes.
After we've already processed the themes of the season. I think that's
cool.
Yeah.
I find it really interesting and fun that it feels like the way the new moons fall, specifically the way they fall at the end of their sign, feels so imperative of, or there's like, it just feels like there's intent behind that to really use the time that we're in the season to really hone in the traits of what that means. It just feels very intentional of like what these new moons this year, specifically this new astrological year, are really going to be for. It really feels like they're more about bringing the sun, the sign that the sun was just in or is currently in, really bringing that into the new moon energy. I find it really like, it's almost like we've been given a prompt for when we're calling in that, like those new moon manifestations and stuff.
Totally.
Really
it makes the transition from each season into the next a little bit more dynamic and interesting too. Like, yeah.
I'm so excited for it to just see what how that shift's just gonna feel, as opposed to it's just been the opposite for the past astrological year. But anything else, Heather? In terms of the sky that you want to talk to me and the listeners about? I'm all ears, baby.
This month is really astrologically active, and so is next month. So is this whole year, really. But but this week in particular, today, as we're recording this tonight, really is the full moon in Libra with the sun conjunct Chiron. We talked about this a little bit before, but it's stepping back, balancing your energies after being in this very personal, active Aries space. And with Chiron there, also maybe addressing some wounds with Libra, some wounds around relationships, around our relationships with money, all those Venus themes. But then, speaking of Venus, on April 11th, right? On April 11th, toward the end of the week, Venus is going to enter Gemini. And at almost the same time, it's going to form a trine to Pluto in Aquarius. And according to Molly McCord, who has become my Bible for astrological transits, it's the first time that Venus is forming a trine to Pluto in almost like 270 years. Like,
that's wild.
Maybe she means in these particular signs. I might have a corrections corner next week, but either way, she mentioned that this particular energy signature hasn't been a thing in almost 300 years, which is really insane. And because we're dealing with Venus, totally wild, because we're dealing with Venus and we're dealing with Gemini and we're dealing with Pluto and Aquarius, it's themes of, air sign themes, dealing with friendships, tribes, community, how we communicate and get along with others, how we connect on an intellectual level with others. And with Pluto, it's huge, major shifts where things have to totally break down and be renewed. But it's a trine, so it's not a scary one. It's more like something is clicking in a harmonious way to catapult us forward. But according to Molly, I like this interpretation. Pluto is also like power, coming into more power. Venus deals with what we attract. So you might attract someone who can help you come into a new position of power. You might attract a new friend group that feels more in tune with you, and those Aquarian themes of like finding your unique tribe.
Interesting.
You might just have, I don't know, leveling up in terms of what you value with Venus, of how you get along with others, all these things. Does that make sense?
No, I love that. I love that this energy right now with this new moon, full moon in Libra, right? Specifically Libra being this sign of balance, the symbol of balance, essentially, honing in on that, especially as we gear up for a transitional new moon and sort of what is a reset for the whole. It's
With
really
that solar
interesting.
eclipse. I know.
Right. Like the timing of all this in terms of balance and harmony, right before we have this transition of taking these sun signs into these new moons, unlike what we've just been doing.
Yeah.
And just the way you oh my goodness, I almost just lost my train of thought.
Oh no.
But the way that you shoot, what was I just about to say?
With Pluto and Venus and being in air signs too. And
it'll come back.
Yeah.
Maybe
no,
it won't. But
you're right. This whole time is very significant. Like,
yes,
not just your average new moon, not just your average new astrological season. It's major collective shifts. And whenever Pluto enters a new sign, which only happens every 10 to 20 years, that's already a huge major shift. But we have these other energies that are really pushing us forward. And it feels like I'm in my own Saturn return sort of like isolated moment here. I'm wondering if everyone's feeling this who's not in their Saturn returns. Like, I know it's more pronounced for us, but it's major shifts this year.
Yeah, that's what you just did remind me, Heather, what I was going to touch on. Specifically, yes, this new moon, or God damn it, this full moon in Libra, this transitional time into like, now we have these new moons at the end of their sun signs. Especially just sort of with the alignment of how you just brought up this specific air trine, how Pluto hasn't sort of, or how this hasn't happened in 270 years or almost 300 years, yada yada. It feels like such a loaded, specific, intentional time. Like just all this loaded reset. Like we just had the Aries new moon. Again, this new moon reschedule sort of switch up is happening right at the start of the astrological new year. It's a huge shift and a huge difference from what we just did in the astrological past new year, right before this huge Saturn return specifically, and then also just sort of like these big transitional movements that are like
the outer
that haven't come around.
And,
Just what a loaded time. It feels like this new moon specifically, and as you pointed out too with the solar eclipse, this new moon specifically feels like a time to fucking like really
be intentional about
intentional about what it is that you're manifesting.
What you
want. Just feels like it's gonna more in like, not in a way of like you gotta really want it if you want to see it true. I more mean like really intentional in the way of like, get ready to really have some shit happen this year. If I dare say so. Like it just feels very loaded. These big transitions are so loaded.
No, absolutely.
So
and even
charged.
if I didn't know about astrology, I would feel like, wow, I can tell there's something in the air right now that is just like,
you would hope,
the new, it's pushing you forward.
Yes, I agree. 100%.
And to add to this, I have another significant thing that's happening this week. Around that Venus and Gemini trining Pluto and Aquarius time, April 11th and April 12th, the sun is going to connect with Jupiter on April 11th in Aries. And that only happens once a year. But still, how cool that this thing that only happens once a year is happening during this week as all this stuff is happening. And this is very positive, very abundant. It's Jupiter is Sagittarius's planet of expansion, thinking bigger, growing, that Sagittarian optimism and wanderlust, and
wild.
And also, yes, that's the other thing. So right after that, Jupiter is going to enter Taurus. And so it's like the start of a whole new 12-year Jupiter cycle, because Jupiter takes 12 years to travel around the zodiac. And Aries is obviously the first sign. So now it's like Jupiter is entering the next phase of this 12-year, cycle, bringing us from fire to earth in the same way that the sun is. And this week the sun and Jupiter connect. So again, it's an emphasis on being very intentional on how you want to expand, how you want to grow, like think big, like what do you idealistically want in your life and how do you bring that into form come Taurus season.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I know.
What a loaded, energetically charged up fucking time.
I'm excited.
Wild.
I'm
Me
excited,
too.
Miranda.
This just gave me chills, Heather. Like,
right?
I just got like, yeah. Like, what a fun. What a ride. And there's just, again, it's just been so nice to sort of let go and let God,
right?
this
No,
process.
Literally, Jesus,
because
take
there
the
has
wheel.
just been so much movement. And like you said, like I would really hope that if I wasn't someone who actually was as invested in astrology as I am, my God, I don't know what I would do without the clarity, honestly. But I would feel like there's something in the air, like truly. It just is. It's just there's a static. It's a good time.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
there's a
What
static.
a time.
Yeah.
And then we have, correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, but one more Aries episode after this before we're into that.
One more before we're in Taurus. Yes, one more.
Geez, wow, this was such a launch. Yeah, folks, listeners, listen. We've got this really fun solar eclipse of a fucking full moon in Libra. Find your balance. Really hone into that shit. It feels like this is the time to really hone into what's passionate, what moves us, what really is gonna like drive us, but also on the flip side of that, like that balance of like, okay, and what are the consistent moves we're gonna make to make this happen?
Yeah, yeah.
Again, it's so symbolic to me that this is specifically this huge full moon we're having that sandwich between these two Aries new moons
and Aries.
happens to be Libra. Such a symbolic sign of like it's all about balance and just like that speaks to me on a lot of levels. It really does. And it's made this really heavy, weird, wonky time like truly a lot more palatable.
Yeah.
If I dare.
Yeah.
Oh, Heather.
And
I'm excited.
I'm excited too. And I think that Libra, is a very positive energy, very upbeat, very bubbly. But it also falls
like,
into
we're gonna have fun with it.
Totally.
But we're also gonna take it seriously, and that's part of the fun. It's part of like I think Libra gets a lot of its fun from caring.
Yes.
Like Libra, like don't mistake Libra.
Right.
Like Libra is air, but like they are a lot when they're emotional about something. It is something that usually is deeper to them, passionate to them. Like I think a lot of Libra is an air sign that gets a lot of its fun from hard work. Weirdly, it's like it's a very it's a contradicting air sign for what air sign is usually known for. I mean,
and I think the fact that it's on that Aries Libra polarity says a lot.
Right.
Yeah, it is
right.
Like,
that's right.
Passion.
Wait, yes,
like it's the opposite sign. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
No, exactly. And then it happens sandwiched between. It's like polarity. It feels like it's extra charged because of that. Like it's not a canceling out of it. It almost feels like it's like it's doubled. It's crazy.
Right? I know.
Or it's just extra like, oh, that's interesting. And yes, I forget that. Thank you for reminding me, Heather, that yes, usually the full moon is always on the opposite. Yes, I'm so happy you reminded me of that because I totally was forgetting.
Yeah.
Oh, Pedro, Kristen, come on the pod. Heather, we're really out here. How are your cheeks? How are your cheeks?
My cheeks are fiery today.
I'm feeling
with a little
ass cheeky myself. I'm feeling some friction on these cheeks myself, Heather. I'm fucking pumped. I'm really excited. I'm gonna do a little. I might pull a little tarot card. Do a little journal entry. Manifest for this full moon and really I'm really excited for what's to come. It just feels like there's really nothing else to do but let go, let God, be a little excited.
Yeah.
The Libra way.
The Libra way. Yeah. Yeah.
Just beautiful.
Forward momentum. Here we go.
Forward momentum, folks. Here we are. Here we go. Nike, just do it.
Yeah.
Infinite abundance up in this bitch. I love specifically the Libra ties to those limiting money beliefs. You know, I love it.
Yes.
You know, I love cutting ties with my limiting money beliefs, Heather.
Oh, we are here to do it, Miranda.
We're here for it always. Infinite abundance in all things.
Yes.
And we love you, listeners, and I love you, Heather.
Love you so much, Miranda. Love.
It's gonna be a beautiful week. We've got some forward momentum and some transitions. Let's get to it, huh? We'll see y'all right back here next week.
Bye.
Love you.